The moment I got my hands on my first ever Zelda game was truly special to me, because little did I know that me messing around in Kokiri Forest or getting lost in the intro of MINISH would be the beginning of my love for a game franchise that would last a lifetime. It's fair to say the Legend of Zelda series holds a special place in the heart of many people, from fans of the original Legend of Zelda back in 1986, to new fans who discovered the series through the latest installment, Breath of the Wild. Each game has its own individual story, style, and adventure to it. This series of action-adventure games, spanning over 30 years now, has definitely made a mark on gaming history, producing some of the best games of all time. Now, ranking games is of course a very opinion-based thing, so keep that in mind for this video, but due to requests from you guys and just me wanting to share my opinion on the games that I believe are the best from the Legend of Zelda series, I will be ranking them mostly on the stuff that I enjoyed most in each game. So if I leave a thing or two out from a game, don't think I've forgotten about it. Anyway, here is my top 5 best Legend of Zelda games. Coming in at number 5. The Legend of Zelda, the MINISH Cap. Now, some of you probably see this as a very odd pick for a top 5, but in my eyes, MINISH Cap is the best 2D Zelda game. I love everything about this game, from the unique items, the amazing soundtrack, to the concept of the Minish themselves. It was also the first ever 2D Zelda game that I played, so it does have a bit of a nostalgia factor to it as well. The game was released in 2004 in Japan and Europe, then 2005 in the US and Australia. The main thing I loved about this game wasn't so much the story, which was really good, however it was the feature of seeing Hyrule in the eyes of a Minish. The Minish is the name the Picori race go by, a very small race of characters that are practically the size of ants to the Hylian eye. The game starts with the antagonist Vae opening the bound chest, that for years was sealed by the legendary Picori blade, trapping a lot of evil inside of it. His reason? Well, he was looking for what's known as the Light Force, however it wasn't in the chest. This resulted in the evil that was trapped inside the chest escaping and spreading throughout Hyrule. Then, Link needs to go out on a quest to fix the broken Picori blade. This is done by recovering 4 elements from the dungeons in the game. However, before the quest gets underway, we acquire the companion Eslo, a talking hat who was once a Minish himself. Eslo is actually how Link is able to shrink down to the size of a Minish, which proves to be very helpful throughout the game. Then, eventually, the sword gets repaired, and infused with the 4 elements to create the 4 sword. Then after that, the main thing is taking out Vae, which finishes off the game. The story is pretty interesting, but it's the gameplay itself that got me in love with the game. With Eslo, we can shrink down to the size of the Minish, which at the time blew my mind. It's such a cool game mechanic. The game also has a lot of unique items, such as the Gust Jar and the Mole Mitts, which are really cool and interesting items to use. The game also has a bright and colourful design to it with some awesome locations, such as the Castor Wilds, Mount Krenel, and the iconic Castle Town. Personally, I think this game is dying for a HD remake, and I really hope it comes sometime in the near future. So that's why MINISH Cap gets the opening spot for me. Coming in at number 4. The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. This adventure in Hyrule is a truly amazing experience. It was one of the first real, fully 3D games as well, so it was a huge step in gaming history. Opposite to MINISH Cap, I love this game for the story. It is one hell of a journey, from beginning the game in a harmless little forest, to leaving your hometown to venture out to Hyrule Castle to find the princess, to then exploring caves within a volcano, to going inside a massive fish. Then you travel in time and suddenly become an adult. How could you possibly see that coming going into this game blind? That was such a huge turning point in the story. Then you go and take on a few more dungeons, this time with greater difficulties to them. Then work your way to Ganon's castle, to finally face him, the King of Evil, one-on-one. To then trying to escape the collapsing castle in time before the ceiling collapses on your head, or the floor breaks beneath your feet. To finally face Ganon in the ruins of the castle with no escape. The only option is to fight, and then that sweet, sweet satisfying feeling when you finally deliver the final blow and take him out. It's fair to say, Ocarina of Time has one hell of a story to tell. That alone got me into this game, but everything else, such as the massive land to explore, the civilians to talk to, the few side quests in the game is filled with lots to do. Not to mention having one of the best soundtracks in gaming history. Ocarina of Time really set a new standard for video games, with being one of the first true 3D games on the market. The dungeons in the game were some of my favourites too. This is when I truly thought to myself, what can get better than this? Dungeons such as the Forest Temple had really cool designs to them. From the entrance to the interior, everything was really well designed. Of course, I can't forget about the Ocarina of Time itself. Although ocarinas or flutes had appeared in the series already, this was when they got really creative with them. I love the ability to switch between child and adult Link. It made the game a whole lot more interesting, and of course made up the story really well. This was such an amazing game to play back in the day, getting lost in the Kingdom of Hyrule, just adventuring. And it still holds up really well today. That's why Ocarina of Time gets the number 4 spot for me. Coming in at number 3. The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. This adventure between land and sky was an amazing experience, and really told a story filled with emotion. The game has you start in a town in the sky, called Skyloft. Then, after you explore Skyloft for a while and learn a few things, you're suddenly skydiving down to what's known as the surface. This is where the adventure really kicks off. You get to go back and forth between land and sky with each dungeon that you take on below the surface. The process of reaching each dungeon may be a little long, but I really enjoyed all the stuff in between, like the Silent Realms, despite how terrifying they may be. Along with the battles against the imprisoned. The game has 7 main dungeons, and they are all unique to each other. They all have different mechanics and designs, which was something I really loved about them, along with how the items in the game are used well for each dungeon. Like Minish Cap, this game has a lot of really unique items that fit the game really well, like the Beetle, a nice spin-off to what the hookshot did well in previous games. Along with all of this, the game has a good set of characters who aren't Link, Zelda, or the King, who still manage to play important roles in the story. We have Groose and his gang of friends, Impa, and of course, Fi. Let's settle this one in the comments, Fi or Fi? Let me know down below. Anyway, debates aside, the game gets so much right. Characters, dungeons, story, and something else that is also debatable, motion controls. Personally, I didn't really have any issues with them at all. I actually loved them, a lot. I thought it was so cool being able to swing your Wii remote as the sword itself to take on enemies. It was truly amazing to me, and still works pretty well today. If they were to remake this game in HD, I would give the option to use motion controls however, as it's not always practical and some people just don't prefer them. Skyward Sword was a really enjoyable game. I mean, we can literally fly in the sky, how epic is that? And if you purchased the 25th anniversary edition like me, you were greeted to a free copy of the amazing orchestrated soundtrack. A little bonus outside of the game itself. Anyway, that is why I've chosen Skyward Sword for my number 3 spot. Coming in at the number 2 spot. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The latest installment to the Zelda series, and what an installment it was. This game completely changed up the Zelda formula of how we play Zelda games whilst retaining that classic Zelda feeling of adventure. Previously, Zelda games had a set story to follow, in a certain order. Breath of the Wild completely threw this out of the window, and created an open world Zelda game similar to the vision of the original Zelda, where you can do what you want in any order. Hell, you can even go to the final boss battle straight away if you want to. The game does approach story learning differently, and in a way I wasn't a huge fan of, as we learn about the story of the game after it actually happens through recovering Link's memories, but everything else in the game made up for this. You have one of the largest overworlds to explore, from a scorching hot desert to freezing cold mountains. The game has a very large land to explore with so much to do. You have 120 shrines in the base game alone to find. Yes, they aren't dungeons, but they are filled with fun puzzles and enemies, and really fill the land well with stuff to do. We also have a good amount of side quests to cover as well, with some really in-depth ones, such as the Terrytown side quest, where you help build an actual town. There is also the Hyrule Compendium, upgrading your armor, activating the towers, and who can forget the fan favourite activity, finding Korok seeds. Jokes aside, the game is jam-packed with stuff to do, and lots of great small little features like the ability to shield surf, or the ability to throw your weapons away at enemies, along with more essential features like climbing and using the paraglider. The game changed up a lot of what Zelda is known for, but it did it in such a way that the game that was created was just as good as the old style. It's mostly the exploration of the game that I love. I love being able to just go anywhere and mess around, and also be able to just jump right back into the main story whenever I want. That's why I've given Breath of the Wild the number 2 spot on my list. Now, just a few quick honourable mentions that didn't make the list. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, A Link to the Past, Phantom Hourglass, and the original Legend of Zelda are all games I love as well, but sadly had to leave out for this one. Now, for my number 1. My all-time favourite Zelda game is The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. This game is what makes Zelda so enjoyable for me. The game has such a peaceful opening on a beautiful ranch to then suddenly go to shit. Your friend Ilia is kidnapped by some beasts that have broken into your village. Then you suddenly become a wolf. Then you're back to a Hylian. Then you're in a dungeon looking for monkeys. Then you finally get to venture out into Hyrule Field and head over to Kakariko Village, where you get to be a fucking wolf again. How awesome is that? Then you go into a volcano to take on the mighty Fyrus, a Goron possessed by the Twilight. Then there is some more wolf gameplay, and then the Lake Bed Temple, and then guess what? Another wolf section. Then we finally get the Blade of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword, and from here we take on some more dungeons, this time with the ability to switch between Hylian Link and Wolf Link. Then, after those dungeons, we move on to taking out Zan, and then eventually Ganondorf, and what a boss battle that was. We battle him as Puppet Zelda, Dark Beast Ganon, on horseback, and then a one-on-one sword duel to finally deliver the final blow through his chest, and defeat him once and for all. If that's not an epic story, then I don't know what is. As well as the story, all the characters, side quests, and little extra things in the game all make it something truly special. Stuff like random minigames like the one in Castletown, or the one at Lake Hylia, and somewhere that I honestly spent at least 80 hours on my original file, the fishing hole. I loved this place so much. It was so relaxing, so peaceful, and just really fun to be at. The game's dungeons are by far my favourite in the entire franchise as well, especially the Snow Peak Ruins. It has such a clever and unique design to it, along with all the other dungeons. The game also features some of my favourite items from the series too, like the spinner. This was such a clever and cool idea and made for one hell of a boss fight too. There is also items such as the Gale Boomerang, which is the classic boomerang but with a twist. The game also has a dark, realistic design to it, and I absolutely love it. The soundtrack for the game is something really special too. It really fits the dark story to the game. I also love the whole Twilight Realm concept and the invasion of the Twilight. It's so intriguing and just sucks me in every time. The story can be pretty sad at times, or scary at times, but it all leads up to an emotional ending as you have to wave goodbye to your companion, Midna. Midna has such a personality. From being deceiving at some points in the game, to being really kind-hearted, Midna is definitely my favourite companion and makes the journey 10 times better and more enjoyable. Along with all of this, the boss battles for the game are for sure the best in the entire series for me. Notable battles that I loved were the ones against Twilight Fossil's Stalord, Twilight Dragon Argorok, Twilight Ice Mass Blizzetta, and one of my all-time favourites, the King of Twilight, Zant. The bosses in the game definitely put on a good show, and all use their surroundings uniquely. Especially Argorok. I mean, you're getting to fight a fucking dragon in the sky. How awesome is that? This pick is probably a little bit obvious as my icon is Twilight Princess Link, but I had to confirm it. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is my all-time favourite Zelda game. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Again, remember this is my opinion and the main reasons why I love each of these games individually. This video has been in the works for a while, mostly me trying to pin down my top 5 games. It wasn't easy leaving out games like Wind Waker and A Link to the Past, but I'm glad to finally get this video out there. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more Zelda videos like this one, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. Also, be sure to join the Discord server through the link below. Again, thanks so much for watching, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.